So what's up, Mysterious, back again with another video, and today I'm talking about um, being a chosen one, being targeted, um, being hated on, being gang stalked, so to speak, and all this stuff. So a lot, there's a lot of videos online. You might not know about them if you're a normie, but there's videos online about gang stalking, people being watched, people being followed, um, people being schizophrenic, thinking someone's following them, thinking someone's following them home or something. And sometimes it's just some random person walking about their day, and they think they're being followed. There can be some misconceptions there, but I'm talking about gang stalking because this is how I feel in my life. Gang stalking, TI, targeted individual, this whole niche, because honestly, I feel this type of stuff almost every day or every other day. Whenever I go out, I feel a little bit of that energy, that gang stalking energy, that targeted individual energy, that chosen one energy. So here I'm just gonna come clean and talk about it, because I've kind of held it back for a while to avoid just looking like a schizo and all this stuff. But I'll just be honest. So often, when I go out, even if I'm just walking to the shop, it often feels like people are just watching me. Like people are just watching me, walking behind me. That's one thing that I often don't like. People kind of walking slightly behind me, even if they're not that close. I still feel like they're trying to follow me, or watch what I'm doing, or find a reason to hate on me. And it feels like people often have these negative thoughts about me, but then they don't say anything. They just kind of look at me in a certain way. Do you know what I mean? And what I often do is I often look to my left side of my body. People often see I'll look to my left side every so often. Look behind me on my left side, just to make sure there's no one behind me. And sometimes there's just literally no one there, or there's no reason to do it. There's no real reason. It's just me being kind of aware and schizo and just like that. And I can just be out with my friends. Sometimes I'll just look behind me, just out of nowhere, even though there's not much reason to do that, so to speak. But yeah, what I'm talking about, this whole craze, this whole sub genre or niche or group of people, of chosen ones, of people who are schizos, who think this type of stuff, I do think is very real. I do think it's a bit it's kind of an underrated topic, to be honest, because I do think it is legitimately real. I just think that sometimes it gets seen as a joke, because other people think that people who are being gang stalked are just over exaggerating, being schizo, and just thinking everyone's gang stalking them, thinking everyone's out to get them, thinking everyone is watching them and judging them and all this shit. When sometimes it's not the case. Sometimes people genuinely are just going about their day doing stuff, and they just happen to be walking the same street as you. They're not actually doing anything bad or wrong to you. So that's the thing. And if you look at this niche called targeted individuals, you look at this topic, it goes back quite a while. I watched a video on YouTube that was from 2009, which is kind of early YouTube. So someone was already posting a video, making a whole video about targeted individuals, talking about tactics people use against them, talking about everything that you can think of when it comes to being a targeted individual, and the worst things about it, all the bad things, all the gaslighting, all the manipulation tactics. If you're a regular person or chosen one, and then someone tries to pick you out, all the things that people try to do. And this just comes down to the matrix. It comes down to the fact that most people are NPCs. Most people don't have a soul. They're NPCs. And since you don't, or since you're a chosen one, or master number maybe in numerology, you'll get picked on more. You'll get targeted more. This is the demonic targeting you. This is the this reality trying to close itself in on you, so to speak. That's what I believe. This reality is trying to close the walls in on you every chance it can get. And it does it in very subtle ways at times. You know what I mean? But it's always there. you can see it, it's always there. Um, but yeah, I've heard some crazy stories. I've heard like people just going absolutely schizo, people thinking like their family is trying to kill them, people like just like going absolutely insane. Like the worst things you can think of like have happened from being a targeted individual, from being one of these people that think like everyone's out to get them. Like some people are just complete schizo, like literally think like everyone's trying to kill them, their families against them, everyone around them is an alien or a shapeshifter, everyone's like working for the government out to get them and all this stuff. And like, it can go really deep, it can get really bad and ugly. Things can get ugly for some people's lives if they really believe this like to a T, like have just lost their mind. And I was in a similar-ish position like around 2021 to like 2023. That's kind of why um that kind of era was the most schizo in my life. Maybe 2024. So I'd say 2021 to 2024, if not 2023, maybe on the lower end. But yeah, that's what I would have to say. And honestly, I feel like this all the time. I do feel like people are watching me and looking at me and stuff like this, and like just people observe me more than other people. I feel like people do observe me more. And even though I don't seem to be like a super popular person, I don't have loads of subscribers, I don't have loads of followers on Instagram, it still feels like loads of people know me, because the reason I'm not that popular, even though I technically feel like I am, is because loads of people know me, but they don't really like me in some regard. So I have like less than 500 followers on Instagram, but I know for a fact more than that amount of people like know who I am and know of me, because these people don't like me. These people, they don't want anything to do with me. They want to isolate me. I'm being isolated in a sense. So that's the thing. Although I do have like 1,000 followers on my public Snapchat, I think that's like the most amount of people that follow me on social media, because my Instagram mostly got hacked in 2022 when I was like 600 followers back then. So then I had to create a new one. But yeah, that's a whole nother story. But the point is, like, let me get back to the main topic. So I often think that like whenever I do something like mildly wrong or mildly bad, I get so much more attention than anyone else. Like if I was to go up to someone on the street and just like punch them in the face for no reason, just assault someone, like flat out assault them, I feel like everyone would hate me. Like everyone on the street would like hate on me, call me out. I'd get the police on me, I get charged, all this stuff. But I feel like if the average person did that, even if like even if they did the exact same thing, or even slightly worse, they wouldn't get the same hate. People would say, oh, well, that happens sometimes, or oh, maybe the person deserved it, you don't know the scenario, and they start like trying to like, give excuses to why the person deserved to like assault another person, or they would be like, oh, I don't get involved in these things. You never know what kind of people out there. And if I was to do something like that, I have this feeling like everyone would just start like hating on me, and I would get so much hate, and like all the bad things, like anything bad you can think of, people would hate on me. And that's a rather extreme example. But I'm just giving an off the topic, example of if I was to do something bad, how I would be perceived and how that would be like received by other people in a sense. But if I was to do something even like less like extreme or more mild and just like not that bad, or just like I don't know, like just something not that bad. Like if I even if I just said something in a sarcastic way, like like if I just said like oh to someone like oh I wish I could just like fucking beat you up or something because you're so annoying. Like let's say I said that to like some random person who's like talking so much shit, people would be like, oh, you're a psychopath, you're crazy, you're weird, and all this. Like they would just take the most smallest, littlest thing and blow it up. When someone else can do the exact same thing, you have all these like rude men in London, for instance. So many violent people in the world, so many bad people. You don't hear loads of people hating on them. You don't see people like rioting over like, you know, murder and crime and like all this like stabbings and shit like that. People just kind of accept it. If you look at how society is, when they see a lot of crime and murder and assault, people kind of just accept it as part of the environment, and they just think, you know what, That's just how it is, and they just like think about ways to get around that. They just try to think of ways to work around that. They don't like riot. They don't get angry. They don't really stand up for themselves in the ways that they could, and in the ways that they otherwise could. They just kind of accept it. If someone was to move to London, they would just be like, oh yeah, like they just accept that there's crime there, and they just kind of, just try to accept it, work their way around it, work their life around that, and just try to think of how they could be safe. But they wouldn't be like emotional or angry. When in other situations, in like these useless scenarios, these useless like things to get angry about, these complete waste of time, they get like really emotional, angry about things that really don't matter, or like at least when you put them into perspective, they don't matter. That's as much as other things going on in the world and this life. And that's what I notice is the normies are always the ones getting emotional about the most random, useless things, and the people who are more intellectual, or the chosen ones, they see what the true problems are. They see what the real problems are going on in the world. They see what's really happening. They see all the bad things. They see like the deaths and everything, and the real problems are going on. And they see the real bad guys. The chosen ones always know who are really like in the wrong, who are really like the bad guys. Not who they think they are, not who they want to be, the bad guys or the villains or the people who they want to villainize. It's the people who actually are, and I see that all the time. I really feel like that. It's always just the controversial figures that people want to hate on. It's always the controversial figures, the people that have the most traction, the people that are most popular, not the people who are actually proper bad. There's plenty of like just degenerate people in the world that don't get the same hate. Most people, like I said already, they just try to avoid them, and they just try to ignore them or work their way around it. That's the thing. So yeah, for me, I feel like anything that I do, whenever I disappoint anyone, whenever I say something slightly offensive, or do something slightly bad, or even something that could arguably be like not even morally wrong, it's just controversial, I could get just so much hate, and just be seen as this terrible person. It's like the thing with like Michael Jackson, and people accusing him of being like a predator, accusing Michael Jackson of being like a predator and that. Like, there is no like hard proof of that. There's no hard like pictures or videos or evidence of that. But there's plenty of other people in the world that actually are like doing stuff like that. There's plenty of like actual like bad people. But yeah, you want to target this one guy who's like, just because he's a celebrity, just because he's famous, loads of people love him, like you wanna go and like attack that person, and they don't even consider the fact that a lot of this could have been just like blackmail, or like just staged, or just made to look a certain way. Do you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't even cross their mind. They just think, oh, this guy's popular, this guy's got all this attention, let's hate on him. And also, Michael Jackson's born on an 11 day in numerology. He's born on 29, so you add 2 and 9, you get 11, which is like me, because I'm also born on 11 day. So maybe there's a similarity there with master numbers in numerology being, well, especially 11's getting like hated on and like all this attention and stuff. But that's just how I feel. Like, I'm sure some of you can relate. I'm sure if you're a real chosen one, you can relate. You can know, you can see where I'm coming from, and you can understand that, like, yeah, like, if you're the black sheep of your family, your parents will call you a failure. If you're like if you're doing things differently, people will call you a failure in your family and your friends, and you can get hated on. You'll just always have the spotlight, but it'll always be a negative way. You know what I mean? There'll always be a spotlight on you, but it'll be in a negative type of way. And just know that like no matter how bad people are trying to make you feel about yourself, none of it matters. The reason being is because there's always worse people out there. There's always bad people. You're not like, chances are you're not like some bad person who's like got a criminal record and does like nasty things. You're just being gaslighted. That's all it is. It's these gaslighting tactics, it's manipulation, it's gangstalking, it's all these things. And that's kind of the most important premise of the video. Yeah, like you don't need to turn into a schizo. You don't need to think the world is out to get you. Everyone's out to get you. Just observe what you see. Observe your environment. Observe what's going on. Accept it and just think. You know what? What do I have to do to shut these people down? You know, sometimes all it takes is just a few words, a quick sentence. The more you like the less attention you give to these things, and the less you like hype these things up in your head, the less important it becomes. Do you know what I mean? The less weight these things have, the less that you give attention and your energy to. You know, it's like in the 48 laws of power. The more you like, you know, give attention to something or put something on a pedestal, the more power you can have given. When someone's like dissing you or like ridiculing you, you just give like a one word answer or give a quick sentence to like shut them down, or just completely ignore them. It makes what that person is saying like sound irrelevant, and it makes them look kind of like an idiot, or it just makes them look like just some hater, but like as if they're a hater coming from this place of lack, like as if they want to hate on you because you have something that they don't. You know, when you have someone like, you know, getting angry and emotional at someone, and you know the other person is just stoic and calm. It's a bit like the meme of like the lion getting angry and like screaming, and there's a monkey just like chilling there like this, like smiling. Like you basically kind of want to be like that. You know what I mean? That's how you want to be as a chosen one. You want to be chill. You want to be like stoic, and you just want to get along with your life. Like think about the more grandiose type of, you know, things you have in your mind that you want to accomplish and do. Focus on those things. Everything else along the way is a small part of your journey. It's a small part of that process, that journey. And none of these things that you experience along the way will matter as much as what happens when you get to your final destination, you know. But that's all I've got to say. So Mysterious out.